Hey everyone, so I just wanted to do a quick video explaining what our blends and our marker pens do. So I've just had a couple of customers ask me about them, and sometimes I forget that people don't know all the differences, because there is differences, and I just use them all the time and I just forget that people don't know. So just going to be a quick rundown on the differences and what you really use these things for. All right, so for starters, I'm just going to look at our Stampin Write markers. Now the ink in these is exactly the same. Let me just pull out. It's exactly the same ink that's in our classic ink pads. This is a water-based ink. Okay, so these ones have a bullet end. I don't know what they're actually called. A bullet and a brush, I call them, ends. Okay, these ones are our blends. These are alcohol-based ink. So these are water-based. This is alcohol-based. So the reason they come in two different things is because you use them for two different things. We love our inking with our water-based for lots of different reasons. But when you go to colour, as in colour in just like a kid colours in an image, you can see all the streaks. When you colour with markers like this, you see streaks. It doesn't blend together. When you use alcohol-based ink, when you colour just like a kid colours in an image, that ink actually blends together. Don't ask me the chemical reason why it does that. Let's just go with that it does. If we ask too many questions of why, then you get rid of the fun of just doing. So I'm going to just get an image here that I've got from the Irresistible Bloom set. It's got a nice little flower that I like to colour in. So let's have a play with the different things. Now I want to do a stamp with an outline and colour. So if I'm going to use my alcohol blends, then I want to use a outline that's not alcohol inked base. Why do I want to do that? If I use an alcohol ink based ink to stamp this and then colour with alcohol inks, when this goes over the outline image or close to it, it's going to run together. So we don't want that. So similarly, if I'm going to use water-based ink to do my colouring, I don't want a water base to be my outline, because if I use a water base on my outline and colour with water base, the inks are going to start running together. So you want to use opposites to make it work. So when I use my alcohol ink blends, I want to use either the Memento black ink if I want to use black. This is a water-based, or I can actually use my classic ink pads because they're water-based as well. So if you want your outline image not to be black, you can of course use any of the colors as well. So let's give a quick example here of the alcohol. So if I just quickly ink this up and stamp that one, upside down, then I can color with my blends. The blends come in a combo pack. They come in a light and a dark of the one color. So this one here is Daffodil Delight. So you can see it's slightly lighter for the light and darker. They come in the two colors because blending is so nice with these. As I said, you don't see the brush strokes. It all blends together. If you have a lighter and darker color, you can get that range of color, the darkness and the lightness of that one color in your coloring in. So you don't have to use both to colour, but if you'd like to get a lot of shading in your colouring, that's where you can use the two different darknesses. There's a few little tips and tricks as well with colouring, and it just comes with practice that you can use just the one colour and still get a light and a dark just by how many times you go over the same colouring. Okay, same with the markers. These ones come with a pointer end and the brush end. Now, I hardly ever use the brush end. I just do that normally if I'm just doing a background and never ever use the tip of your brush, it'll wreck the tip. You want to use the side of your brush. And that's if I just wanted to do just colouring in the background. Okay, to colour an image, you want to use the top end. All right, so basically we're going to colour, and I can go over the black from the image and it's not going to bleed. If I used an alcohol ink as my black, which is my stays on, that would actually start bleeding and the image would become blurry. All right, so basically I can just put a bit onto the image like that. I can come in with my light. I can go straight over the top. And you can see I wasn't very neat and tidy with my colouring then. Hopefully my lighting, you can see a little bit there. That's actually blended in, and I've got a nice darker bit down here and lighter bit up here. You can use any colours to blend together as well. You don't need to just go with the light and the dark. So I've got my Highland Heather here. If I use that on this petal over here, and I come in with some Floaty Flamingo, which is nice to have a pink and a purple put together. They're quite different in colours, but I can play with these and start going over. You just keep going over itself and it will start blending together. And hopefully you can see this one. Sorry about my lighting. It really blends it together, sort of where those colours meet. It all blends together and you don't see any strokes left from that colouring. Okay, so that's using the blends. You definitely want a water-based ink to do your outline. So now when we want to colour with our water-based ink, these aren't the best thing to colour an image with. Even though we've got the brush tip end, these are great for, once again, doing some backgrounds using the side of that brush tip. This point here is really just useful for writing. Okay, when you want to colour with water-based, it really is best to use the ink from these ones. So when we want to colour with our water-based, we want to use an alcohol-based ink as our outline. So that's where we want to go back to our stays on. The other thing that we can use here is embossing powder. So if you've ever used embossing powder before with your heat tool, you can outline with your Versamark ink and emboss with a powder, and then that's going to ensure that your water-based ink isn't going to make your outline run. Okay, let me clean my stamp. All right. Oh, very wet, my stamping scrub. Okay, this time with my stays on, I can definitely tell it's my alcohol-based ink because of the smell. Very strong. All right, so we'll stamp that one. Now, the best way to colour, as I said, not with the markers, stamp with the colour with this classic ink pads. Best way to get ink, some people like to squeeze the pads together and to get some ink on the inside, but these new designs of the actual pad, it doesn't get on the inside very well. So I just take a acrylic block and get some ink straight off the ink pad onto there. Then you can either use your aqua markers. So this is just water. It's brushed with a water, one that I've got water in already. So it's just water in here, and it's just mixing the brush with a little bit of water and then colouring in. So obviously that's a little bit harder to do while I'm filming, but I think you get the gist of that, and then you can come back in and make things darker. Okay, so that's going to give you a real watercolor effect. The other thing that you can use are our blender pens. Now, I've never known exactly what's in a blender pen. I just call them magic. There isn't water, apparently. There is something in these You don't refill them or anything like that. They come as is. But basically, you use the brush tip end to do your colouring. So once again, it's just taking a little bit of the colour, and then you can come in and colour your image. Now, it takes a lot of practice to use these right. Once you get it right, it is easy to use, but it takes a lot of practice. And as you can see, it is very messy, a little bit hard to use. Okay, so that's the differences between the blends and our markers. So hopefully that's given just a little bit of clarification to a couple of ladies that I know are asking questions about them. If you have any further questions, please ask me and I will try to answer them for you. All right, bye. Okay, I know I'd finished, but I rewatched the video in my editing and realised I missed one thing that I wanted to say about the Stampin Write markers. That although they're not the best to colour with, they are really useful for stamping. Okay, so what you can do with the brush tip end, and this is, I use this end a lot with the markers, is because I love this technique, is to actually ink your stamp up with them. Because they're water-based, they're not going to dry instantly, so it's a great thing to be able to use to ink these up. You cannot do this technique with the blends. If you do this with the blend, it's going to just stay on here and it will not transfer over. Okay, so this is another stamp from that stamp set, and it's just a clean stamp. So instead of inking up with an ink pad, I can ink certain parts up with just the side, always the side. Don't ever use the tip, it will wreck your marker. But we're just going to put on the side of the stamp. Now I've probably used the wrong colour here because it's almost the same colour as the red rubber. Let's grab a darker colour here, Night of Navy. I'll go to the other side of the stamp and you can see that it's inking it up. So this is a great way if you want to use multiple colours on the one stamp, if you only want to use part of the stamp to ink up, especially with words. So maybe you have words like recently we've got ones, have yourself a Merry Christmas, but you only want to have the Merry Christmas inked up. You can use your markers just to ink up the Merry Christmas part. So you can see they've got the ink on here. I've got different colour over this side. So that's going to stay wet for quite some time. And when you ink, it's going to actually ink. A lot of people like to do the huffing on it, which just reactivates the moisture of that ink. So it's basically just putting it up to your mouth and just even a little bit of a huff over the top. Don't know if it's necessary, but that's what lots of people like to do. I think that's upside down. So I didn't ink up all of that, so you'll be able to see just the parts of that stamp that I inked up. So there we go. That's why I love these, and that's why I love these for totally different reasons. All right, bye.